Hi folks, it's Ed here. It's live, Brands Hatch. What can we say? Brands Hatch Indy, home of scary first turns. A fabulous day. Only second race for us in the E46 Racer. Sharing the drive this time with Mike Jacobs from AE Racing. He's doing a double event today. He's also racing in the low-cost Mazdas. So lots to get through. A little bit about the car, qualifying in the race. I'll try to condense it down to just 1 hour. Bit of fast forwarding. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe and notify. It really does help. Thank you. Well, folks, here's the car all set up for Brands Hatch. Just thought I'd add to the little thing and what we've actually done to the car. So inside, not a huge amount has changed. There's the steering wheel. You might see an extra little button there. We've, for this one, because it's a mini endurance race, we've added in a little radio, and this is just license free, little walkie-talkie. It doesn't have a very good range, only about half a watt of power out of there, but it enables us to talk to the pits, and you'll see hopefully what advantage we have with that, being able to talk to the crew and coordinate. Of course, the issue we have on this one is that Mike, he's racing, qualifying in the low-cost Mazda, and it's he's got his crew with him, so we may as well utilise those guys as much as possible, especially Rob, who knows his stuff. You'll see here we've got the second seat fitted. That is a weight issue, and underneath that, plated with 4 M8 bolts, is 10 kilos worth of ballast. Why ballast? Why make it heavier? Well, it's all about horsepower and the regulations. So let me see if I can flip this around. There we go. The Roadsports category Class C that we're running in is 180 brake per ton, and when you get the horsepower of this car, it's been downed at 236.9, and you then do the calculation. So 236.9, divide that by 180, comes up at 1317 kilos. The car weighs 1293 as a dry weight, that's without fuel. The seat weighs 12 kilos, and the 10 kilos of ballast in there as well brings it up to 1315. So we'll meet the absolute minimum weight running with zero fuel. Now, as we know how much fuel the car uses in 45-minute races, then we could probably start removing that ballast and using the remaining fuel. It holds about 45 kilos of fuel, so we could theoretically finish with a third of a tank, but I don't really want to have to do that. It's really just peace of mind at the end of the day. Other things that we've done, let me see, we have put up one click on all of the suspension to toughen it up a little bit, and I've also put the rear anti-roll bar on the softest setting, and I've put the front anti-roll bar on the hardest setting. So hopefully that'll make a difference in the handling. And if you forgive the lawnmower in the background, that's pretty much it. Don't mind sharing, to be honest. This is a record as much for me than anything else as to what we did with the car. See if it makes any real difference. So the whole format of it all, I'm dark in my face, the whole format of it all basically on these race reviews is I'll talk a little bit about what we've done to the car. We'll have a look at qualifying. We'll do a little bit of a montage. We'll talk about the race, and I'll probably over talk some of that as well. Lots to get through. Hopefully try and not make it as boring as possible. And of course as well, if you check out most likely the previous video, you'll see that we've got the full uncut race footage with all the data, and we should have the full uncut qualifying as well. If you want to, get yourself put to sleep at night watching the whole thing in real time. But this will certainly be the edited version. We'll not do too much. We'll keep it trying fairly snappy and as least boring as possible, I suppose. There's nothing worse than watching little cars go around a track. So that's it for now. We'll see what happens. Hi folks, it's Ed here. It's live Brands Hatch the night before the big race. Just had a little walk around the track with Matt Creed, a friend of his. Surprised at how big the curbs are. Qualifying tomorrow, stroke practice is 9:45 a.m. and the race, I believe, at 1:45 after lunch. So the plan is Mike's going to get in the car first. He's going to do a bit of... It's alright. Mike's going to do the qualifying first, and then he's going to jump out because he's racing in the Mazda low costs directly after both practices and the race. So he's got to jump out of the car, get into the Mazda and try and do a few hot laps. He's a glutton for punishment, but I'm sure he'll love it. Right behind me is Paddock Hill Bend. It's absolutely terrifying, I have to say. Words can't really put into words what this corner is actually like, and it drops off, and it's a blind corner, and you can't see the exit. Bottom Hill Bend, or I think it's Graham Hill Bend here behind us. It's another tricky one. Mike's just in the queue here. You can see in the background. Let me see if I can swap it around. There he is. There's the 46 racer. Mike sweating his nuts off. This is just coming up to qualifying. They do the noise test up into the assembly area, and then it's a quick 25-minute session. We each got to do 3 laps to qualify technically. Mike's going to do his 3 laps, maybe a couple more, and then he's going to jump straight into the to the low-cost Mazda and do qualification for it. So we're literally got qualification and races. Well, the qualification is back-to-back for him. So he's going to work hard today, but he is a glutton for punishment. He likes it tough, apparently. So that's all to come. So here we have it, Mike Jacobs qualifying Brands Indy. You only get 25 minutes of qualifying session. It takes us probably with an in-lap and a driver change at least 3 minutes. So it leaves somewhere in the region of 22 minutes for both of us to get in some laps. Now you might see it's really busy. We're Class C car, we've got the faster Class B and the Class A cars, all trying to do the same, and huge differences in speeds. Some of the Class A guys, they're doing 53 second laps. 53 seconds, there you go. And we're putting in something like 57 or 58. So that gives you some sort of idea of how really difficult it is to get some clear space. And then you get things like yellow flags thrown into things. You've got to battle all of that. So what I'll do is I'll fast forward onto a half decent lap, and you can see him in action for a little while. So here we are, end of lap 3, going into lap 4 of the session. So we're down start finish straight. Particle bend is completely blind on entry. It drops away, and it's you've got to be fully committed, big balls. The fastest cars effectively just slide out and wait for the compression to pick up some grip. Into Druids, 180-degree turn, probably the slowest part of the track. And it's really hard to tell what gear to take, bottom hill or Graham Hill bend. In the end, it ended up doing it in third and hanging on to the higher res. So you see the faster cars as a Class B overtaking. Oh, there's Rory Baptiste, I should mention. He ended up, I believe, second overall in Class C. He's the one to watch. Similar car, a 330 BMW. He's a much more experienced driver, so Mike will be trying to hang on to him, figuring out his lines. Rory ends up doing 55.62 in qualifying, which is just outstanding given the number of cars on the track here. So that's what we know that this car is capable of. So we're 3 seconds off his pace, but at least we know where to go. The pole sitter for this session, no surprises there, is Matt Creed. This is his home circuit, knows it very well, and of course last time out in Silverstone he won Class C. So he's got a performance penalty this time. I believe it's 10 seconds added on to his pit stop. And if you see a little white Clio fly by, that'll be him. Matt did a 55.53 to qualify pole on Class C. Of course, there's Class A and B cars all over the place here. We don't really care about them because we're running our own race. They're more an inconvenience than anything else. And of course they would say the same about us because they're doing their own thing as well. So you see his lap times coming steadily down. There's a minute, he's added a second onto that. I'll just let you get through. Ultimately, Mike put in a 58.87. That put us 32nd out of 38 cars overall. I think Mike ended up getting probably one clear lap, and I did as well. The safety car came out for 3 laps as well, and of course we were in for a 3-second effectively driver change. Now it's getting a bit squiffy there. That's 58.8, so we've already seen his fastest lap. If you look very carefully, you might see Mike doing a little trip onto the grass. So of course it was completely unknown to me, this. There he goes. Good lad. He tried to take the last corner a bit faster, almost flat, because some of the guys are able to do it. But I was completely oblivious to this, and this is one of the occasions where the radios work really well. He was able to radio into the pits that he went onto the grass, and he needed the guys to look under the car. You probably see him looking around whilst I was getting changed. So this is kind of was a practice for us. We came in at 45 degrees even though we didn't have to. In the race it would be mandatory. So it's a matter of getting Mike out of the car, me into it, and get underway. So we've got one of the lads, Colin, he's torquing the bolts. Or is it? No, it's not. It's Mark Perry. There it is. Colin was doing the timing. So Mark very kindly grabbed the torque wrench. Thanks, Mark. And he's gone round because we're on wheel studs and they get hot as the brakes heat up and they just need a little tweaking just to make sure the wheels stay on. Always a good idea. So that was it. In I come, and well, COVID token gesture, clean. They just need to see you've made some sort of attempt to do it, I suppose. But eagle eyes everywhere, and people watching to see you've done it right. So we'll not waste any more time with the pit change. We'll cut a little bit out there and see a few laps. So here we go. All the telemetry you see on the bottom of the screen comes from a thing called a Solo 2, an M Solo 2. It's on the steering wheel. It's the black box, the upper of the two. The bottom one is just a timer. So from left to right we've got the circuit diagram, and the red dot is where the car is on the track. Then we've got the instantaneous G reading, and then the maximum G's in any corner. That's important for us because I know this car is capable of 1.3, 1.4 G, and as we get more familiar with the car and the data, we'll know how much more we can push it into corners, because that's ultimate grip, especially in the dry on a nice day. It'll change very little bit according to conditions, but it's always nice to know what we're aiming for. On the next one is the instantaneous speedo, and then we've got max and min speeds for the corners. That's important as well if we want to maximize the minimum speed, as it were, and let us know why a lap is particularly faster than the last one. Then we've got the timer, just letting us know that this lap was 1:19, so we can watch the lap when it's giving us the fastest one. And then the other one on the right hand side gives the lap times, and it'll give the best lap as we've gone. So a 1:02 out. I had done a half track day here before my arts test a couple of months ago, and that's the only time I really had. So I was getting into the car. Yes, it was nicely warmed up, I suppose, but I was a bit of learning, and really only 5 or 6 laps to do this. Again, being overtaken by much faster cars, and I think a little bit of learning from me especially, trying to see what lines. Here's Dave Connell, Scuderia Dave. We had a great old fight out in the race, although unbeknown to me he was trying to lap me. More of that later on. Dave did a full test previous day, so he was well familiar and on it. He was doing really well. Ended up finishing 3rd in class. I think it was his first podium, so he did really, really well. Taking curbs. More of that later on. You may have spotted on the intro that the little car was up on a jack. So smashing into curbs didn't do the lower wishbones any good at all. More of that later on. So you can see the MX-5 is really, really quick in the corners. Great on the brakes. But the BMW just has them on the straight, so it really suits the kind of the smaller twisty tracks. Oh, a little bit of a moment there. And just far too slow out of Graham Hill Bend. You can see Dave's just making distance on me altogether. And he's off. So we'll fast forward quickly onto my quickest lap. There it is, this one. 59.054. Just really 2/10 behind Mike's lap, so we were fairly evenly matched. Don't ask me how it happened, but a bit of a clear track. I was just getting settled into it now, just done 3 laps. Just getting used to it again and pushing it just that little bit more. Let's see how much curb I take here. Yeah, getting a bit more confident. And there it is, my fastest lap. So we ended up qualifying on row 14 of 17. 12 out of 15 Class C cars, and we qualified 32nd out of 38 cars in total. So back on the way into the pits, we just look at the data here. I only got 6 laps. 6 laps, 3 of which were pretty much learning laps. And the best was lap 4, 59.054, as opposed to Mike's 58.87. So I was well happy with that. He struggled as well because he had the safety car out for 3 laps. So really, all in all, Mike got 5 laps, and I got 6. But I think the whole race will be won and lost on qualifying on this one. And it goes to show what we really have to learn. Next one will be Snetterton, be solo for me. So I'll just stay out there and keep blatting away at the laps and see what happens. Well, hi everyone. That's qualification done. Just outside the garage, so I don't have to wear my mask. There it is, car's backed up, it's refueled, ready for the race. Mike started off, and he did a blistering 58 or thereabouts. I took over and did a 59, low 59, so 200ths of a second apart. Puts us, I believe, 12th out of 15th in class and something like 32nd out of nearly 40 cars. So you know what, it's not the bottom, it's not the top, it's not even the middle, but we're happy with that. Cars in one piece. Did a little bit of grass tracking in Mike's hands, but all is well. Race is scheduled for 1:45, so we'll take a break for lunch fairly soon, and we shall get underway. All right, there's Mike chilling out. And look, we've got AE Racing. Look, he's strategically positioned just by the logos. You see the entrepreneur that he is. So, how did you get on, Mike, on the Mazda?
Don't look at the front.
We'll show that in a minute.
Early bits, yeah. There'll be some grass in there.
Yeah. How did you find actually running the 2 cars back to back?
The brakes are very different. That's the biggest thing. This thing can really stop and has ABS. And then I jumped out of that straight into that, and then went in the same corner, and I was like, oh crap. Doesn't stop in the same way.
So it would be fair to say the braking points are a little different.
It's a tiny bit different, yeah. And then this thing you can take all the curves, whereas ours you don't take any curves. So I was able to make sure I was avoiding them.
Yeah, so all a bit different. So you're all set for the race. So is it right? The Roadsports is first.
Yeah.
First start after lunch, 1:45, and then you got to do the first stint. Jump out of the car, straight over to the assembly area for the Mazda, and jump in it. Any changes in your original decision?
It's too late now. I'm in it. I was so hot though, so hot getting out of that one, and then after waiting in the assembly area as well, and just sat there, and I was like, oh.
All right then. Well, I hope you can hear us anyway. There's lots of clanging and bells. So this is the mighty Mazda low cost. Not sure what you working at here, Colin? Are you rebuilding it? No.
Absolutely nothing. Personally.
Nothing. You're just looking at it and hoping hope it fixes itself. No, it's not broken at the moment. It's not broken. No. Not broken. So finally, we'll take you around and see. So Mike offers grass cutting services. It's fueled by petrol and front splitters. So you know what? But this thing's built like a tank. So no adverse effects, and we're all good to go. So it's still a lovely day here. Sun's shining. Everyone's getting their suntan lotion on, and actually there's a lovely atmosphere in the pits. Everybody's just chilling out. We're one of the fortunate ones that Roadsports, because it's a mini endurance race, they kind of get lucky on the garages. A lot of guys are out there in the other paddock in the blistering sunshine, and we get the relative luxury of the garages where all the doors are open and it's nice and cool. So there you go. There's the pit lane garages. Try your radio now.
Hatch.
Yeah.
Needs to be over the hands.
Over.
Over the hands.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the hand.
Yeah, it's good. Good enough.
That's fine, mate. Yeah, that's fine. It's too tight, if anything.
Okay. There you go. When the ignition's on, just check your radio. Who's on the radio?
Yeah, me.
So it's race time.
Yeah.
So the whole format of this is we're going to play in slow time the good bits, and we'll just zoom through the not so interesting bits 4 or 5 times speed. So apologies for your telling speeds up a bit. There we go. It's still done as one shot. It just gives you some sort of idea. So there's Mike in the assembly area and off onto the track. So the format of Roadsports, what they've done with 4 this year is instead of a standing start, we do a rolling start. So they'll have the green flag lap, a bit of a warm up, brakes and tires, and then they'll go through to a rolling start. Because we're using the radio this time round, we had confirmation that we could actually give the go signal through the radio. Problem is, through clearways, then you've got the issue that you're so far back on the grid here. We're back on row 17, I think, and you couldn't actually see the start lights at that point. As it turned out, Mike was flat out at that point anyway, so it didn't make any difference at all. So parade lap, keep in formation. So there's Andy Gay in the 318 IS, and of course we're just ahead of Stephen Ayres in the Hyundai Coupe. Looks like Stephen just took a position there. Oh, he's back again. And he's held on to it. So that's us dropped back into 12th, I believe. In class, having started 11th. So a little bit of fast forwarding action takes us through to the next little bit. So we chase down Stephen again, trying to get this position back again. He's doing well to defend, as you can see. So we're taking one of the 116I's Class D cars as we battle away with Stephen again. The Class B 318 Ti going through. Really nice little car, that one. But it didn't finish, unfortunately. And nope, not quite. Again, Stephen making that Hyundai as wide as possible. Now we'll Mike have another go here. Again, can't quite make it stick. And up the inside, yes, there we go. Back up to P11 where we started. So, who's next? That is Andy Gay ahead in the 318IS. A really lightweight little car. It's in the same class as ourselves, of course, it's power to weight ratio. We've got more power, but we've also got more weight to drag around. I think Andy's done everything on that car. Speaking to him briefly in the pits, he's even removed the power steering pump and the idler gears and stuff like that in the effort to save weight. He's drilled all the bumper attachments, and he's basically, this one's a real lightweight machine. Unfortunately, just didn't have the power of the 330 on the Cooper Straight. So that's us up into 10th position. A bit of clear track, and Mike gets a chance to stretch the legs. .944 there, slowing down. Again, he retired shortly after that. So Matt's M3, unfortunately, was another, did not finish after 19 laps. Liam Crilly, there he is, eventually the second place overall. Class B, very rapid little Z4. Oh, it sounds like a Civic. There he is, Lewis Rose. Eventually the P3 overall. So we're about 15 minutes into the race now. Coming up to it anyway, and the pits will start to open at 15 minutes. They'll close at 30 minutes. And everyone has got to do a compulsory pit stop. So here we have Andy Bailey's Type R going through. He's Class B. We're not interested in him. What we are more interested in is that 330, the silver one ahead of him at 707. Jonathan Barrett. Similarly paced cars. Jonathan's a bit more experienced than the both of us. He does endurance racing in the Club Enduro series as well. He uses the Roadsports series generally the day before to get a bit more seat time in and set up his car. So trying our best to run him down. Obviously defending a line there. Mike tries a different line in there. Theoretically it could be faster for the more powerful cars, that in deep into Druids and then back round taking the apex about 3/4. So there's Ollie Samways. Umar to another quick car, but lapping us all the same. He ended up finishing 6th overall, I believe. So now we have a combination of passing back markers in the Class D BMWs and trying to make time. Not sure there's anyone behind here, so he's not defending just so much, so he's just basically chasing down that 330. So it's a classic situation, of course, of passing back markers and trying to make the most. So see, Jonathan's gone through, and then the 116, he's back onto line. Of course, it's our responsibility as the faster car to get round the slower one, not the other way around. It's up to the guys ahead to just drive consistently, if I can say that. And there you go. So there's one of the M3s going through. And then the Type R. These Type Rs are just rapid. They do very well in Class C as well when they're not in tuned form. And a little bit of fast forward action as well. So plenty happening now. It all starts to get a bit confusing because the pits are open. We're sharing this drive 50-50 in the absence of any safety cars. So Michael will be keeping track of the time. So he's told us about 20 minutes. He'll do another 2 or 3 laps, try and chase down Jonathan in the 330. Actually, he's getting held up by some back markers. Jonathan did really well. I think he got the driver of the day as well for this one. He ended up finished 17th overall, and he finished 5th in Class C, so he was doing well at the end of the day.
One more crack at this beamer.
So it's really nice when you get into this situation. Mike's obviously wants to keep going. He's got a bit of a race on. He's chasing a similarly paced car down. And he doesn't really want to give that up. But you know what? Very kindly, he popped in to the pits to do our change. So currently running in 10th coming up to the pit stop. Of course we get that 944S2 retired in Class C, and we also lost quite possibly the Class C winner, Matt Creed. Finished first at Silverstone in Roadsports Class C, and it turns out that he had a problem with one of the lambda sensors or oxygen sensors in the exhaust. It shorted out and then blew the fuse on the ECU, so he ended up retiring after 14 laps. So he's already gone at this stage. So essentially we thought we were in 10th. We were actually up to 8th, I think, at this point, and all we had to do is try and hang on. So because the pit lane is so short, they decided to go in at 45 degrees and then push out. Of course, you can never use reverse gear, not in the pits anyway. Mike's got the headphones tangled on the buckle, so I'm frantically trying to get that removed. And then the steering wheel's got to come off because it's so far out on this, and the seat's so far forward. I'm such a short arse. You'll never get in if the steering wheel's on. There you go, get your leg in, mate. There we go. So we had agreed at this point that the lads would attract the straps, I would attract the steering wheel, and I would put in the plug for the microphone in the headset. So you'll hear my heavy breathing in a minute. 1 minute 30 stationary. We were much slower than that in practice. We gave it a go. We were closer to 2.5 minutes. So here we are. Mike started the stopwatch so I can tell from the bottom there what it's running. I just wanted to leave it a couple of seconds. So the guys tried to push and I got my foot on the brake. Didn't want to go exactly, so it was just 2 seconds. Off we go, and 60 kilometers, 37 miles an hour, I believe, in the pit lane. Oops. Then we got it under control. There we go, keeping it to the right of the solid line. Never know who's coming down the pit straight there. And then we're back out on lap 25. So here I'm going, oh, sugar, it's my second race, and it's all very exciting, but you get settled in, get a few laps, hopefully keeping it under the minute, keeping it on the black stuff, and more importantly, having fun. There you go, that's one rapid M3, that's for sure. Christopher Mills is the overall winner in the end. There he is, just disappearing into the distance. And the Class B car, we're not too worried about that. Of course, we run our own race. into Class C, so that's all we care about. Now, I knew up until this point that we were trying to chase down Jonathan Barrett. It turns out he's still out there. He pitted somewhat later than us, but when he came out in the end, he was about 15 seconds ahead, so we didn't see him again. Unfortunately, that I was looking forward to a bit of a race. There you go. It's a Class C car. It's unbelievably quick. Jonathan Packer is just steaming on there. And you'll see, this is the corner where I lose most time. He just disappears on the Cooper Straight there, so that's a learning curve for me. There's another one. There's the MR2 coming by. Only some ways. It goes to show, though, a rapid Class C car can be mixing it up big time with the Class B guys. That invariably happens, to be honest. Rarely would you see a Class C and Class A car tussling. There's just massive differences in power. And there's Rory Baptiste and Nick Goff going by. Rory is in a very similar car to us, but he's just a fantastic driver. So he ends up second in Class C at the end of it all. Did really, really well. It's just a pity I just couldn't. He scythed through these other, say, back markers, and it held me up. It just goes to show the levels of experience that he's at. And I, of course, got held up. So it would have been nice to chase him for a while and learn something from an expertly driven car. So all I'm doing here is ultra fast forwarding through the boring bits, trying to condense this as much as possible, and slowing down then when there's either being overtaken or overtaking other cars.
Alright, thank you. Having fun.
Indeed, having fun. That's what it's all about. Certainly this season anyway. Take it maybe a bit more seriously as we go on, but right now, I'm happy with what we're doing. Really just trying to keep it safe and not making a dick of ourselves. So M3's all over the place. Seems to be the car of choice. And then some more back markers. Believe it or not, I had actually considered starting off with a 316i, doing some of the single make stuff. In the end, decided I'd go for a car that could actually be a bit more diverse and I could grow into, rather than buying something that I'm going to maybe get a bit bored. Turns out there were only, I think, 3 Class D cars in Roadsports. So, actually, yeah, 3 Class D. So everyone got a podium finish. But that's not the point, really. You need a lot of people to race with. So Class B and Class C really vastly outnumber the rest. There's 2 Class A cars finished. 11 Class B cars. And 12 Class C cars. So at this point, you come out of the pits, having done your stop, and you have no idea where you are in the field. Now, maybe a bit more interaction with the radio, but I'm trying to find out if Dave Connell behind me is on the same lap, or is he trying to lap me? But I couldn't see any blue flags. And sorry, Dave, in the absence of blue flags, there was no way in hell you were getting past me. I did subsequently find out he was trying to lap me. I'm trying to defend position. And there we go. Definitely no blue flags. There you go. So I didn't know whether... I knew he was ahead of us, obviously starting on the grid. But I thought he'd maybe have a stop-go penalty. Or he could have had an issue that it was a longer pit stop than normal. We came out ahead of him for whatever reason. So major confusion, and in the end actually I went at the end of the race and apologised to both Dave and Rory Baptiste, believe it or not, because I held the two of them up. I was letting through the Class A and B guys. I'm thinking at this stage, God, I'm knackered. I'm doing all this defending. And I know Dave was pushing me. He was centimeters from my rear bumper at times. So I wasn't gaining on anybody. I didn't really have a race. It was all defensive on my part. So just trying to keep a cool head, not overbreak myself. I'm doing my best to make the beamer as wide as possible for Dave. I'm sure he was cursing me at this point, trying to get past, but... I think in the end he said it was some of the best racing he had at that point. There we go, some flying Type Rs. Those are Class B cars. And we're fighting it out for I think a Class B podium. So as you can see, racing movies in car stuff is a bit tedious sometimes. It's more a record for us and a bit of fun. And there is the checkered flag. No idea where it finished. I just knew I hadn't given up positions to Class C cars. Of course, always a good idea to thank the marshals on the way back. Without them, none of this is possible. So thanks very much, guys. If you're watching this, much appreciated. Listen to that, eh? And that's with a headset on. I could hear them screaming from the from the fence there. So breathing massive sighs of relief at this point. Kept the car in one piece. And now for some celebration.
Oh boy. No idea.
What a drive, buddy! What a drive! Well done, son! Immense! Immense!
I think we finished the 21st.
You did. Nice.
Did you confirm it?
So there was a little bit of attrition in the race, some DNFs.
Mate, you're all good. Good
1, 2, 3, 6 of them in the end. 2 Class C's, 3 Class B's and 1 Class A. We started 32nd and we finished 21st overall. We started 11th in Class C and we finished in 8th in the end. So well done to everyone, the pit crew. Thanks very much, guys. So if you haven't already, like, subscribe and notify, and we'll see you all at Snetterton in July. Roll the credits.